What's going on? Wanted to do a little video just to explain to all of those who might be going through this soon, who maybe just went through it, or maybe those who are just interested in what happens when your stomach gets removed. And so for me, I had esophageal cancer that spread into my stomach. Was stage 3 and 12, I think is what they called it, or stage 3 in something. The true uh, name for what I had, I always forget, to be honest, but it was small signet cell esophageal cancer, something something. So I had a very aggressive cancer that started off in the lower part of my esophagus, spread down to my stomach. Went in and they had to remove it all. So when they removed it all, first thing they do is they take your small intestine and they'll either kind of chop it up or do what they can. But the end result is they will stretch it up. And a lot of people who just lose their stomach, they'll attach the esophagus, sew you back up, and you're on your way. For me, they had to remove my entire esophagus. So you can kind of see, I guess, I always get this kind of backwards, but I have a scar that kind of goes down right about there. And then I have from sternum to belly button, I have a scar where they had to stretch me all the way up, and then they reconnected me kind of right below my throat. So a lot of things that are going to be coming up for you if you have not experienced this is before we kind of get into that, I want to preface this by saying not every person is the same. I'm not a doctor. This isn't medical advice. This is just my experience. This is what I've learned through this. My surgery was the end of March 2023. So I guess I am about 7 months out, closing on actually 8 months. Wow. So about 8 months now, and I was released in the beginning of April. Um, and sorry, I was kind of getting sidetracked just thinking of that experience. And so my experience might not be like yours. Mine might be worse. Mine might be better. A lot goes into what your outcome is going to be and kind of what you're going to experience. I've heard, uh, when I was diagnosed, it was negativity everywhere. So my whole reasoning behind these videos is to shed some positivity, not on the diagnosis, but just on what can happen afterwards. It's not the end of the world. On the flip side of that, for a lot of people, me included, it's been a change that has a lot of positivity attached to it. So, prior to this, I was fairly healthy. I was an avid motocrosser. I was riding 3, 4 times a week. I was in the gym 2 to 4 times a week. I was about 220 pounds. I always say that my fighting weight, the best shape of my life, was about 205, and I was 10% body fat. So I had a little bit more fat than normal, but I was still in shape. I guess at the time I was 41 years old. I'm an Iraqi veteran, and that kind of played into how I was diagnosed, or why I was diagnosed, or why they thought that this cancer kind of came to me. But that being said, get diagnosed. You're told your life's going to change. It's going to change. It's going to change dramatically at first. For me, I'm a big foodie. I was a lot bigger foodie. There would be times I could eat 2 foot long subs. I'd eat a pound steak with a baked potato and all the fixings. I could, devour 10,000 calories a day and not think twice about it. A pint of ice cream, you name it, I could eat it. Post surgery, at first, they start you off slow, and they have a feeding tube in me. Again, this is my situation, and it might not be for you, but I had a feeding tube, and they told me, and I had a feeding tube prior to surgery when I was going through chemo and radiation, just because at the time the cancer had closed my esophagus so much that getting yogurt down was a hassle. Um, in another video, I'm going to do another video of kind of how I found out that I had cancer, symptoms I was having, but this is just really kind of that post surgery, what to expect. And so, the first 2 weeks I was in the hospital. I guess that's actually, I think it was 9 days is total when I was in the hospital, but 9 days to 2 weeks is kind of the normal. While I was in the hospital, it was started off as just broth, I think, for a couple days. and then some Jello. By the time I was leaving, it was steamed carrots, hamburger patty like a Salisbury steak. They don't want you to eat anything sharp, chips, stuff like that for, I don't remember how long it was. I followed that fairly well. One thing I did kind of cheat on is I cheated on eating nuts just because the high fat, high calorie content. Starting off, you get something. Again, I got something, and I didn't get it too bad, but a lot of people do get something called dumping syndrome, and it is exactly what it sounds. And there's kind of two parts to this. So the first sound, or the first part of this, is how it sounds. You eat something, and then you're running to the bathroom, and you're dumping it out. It's going right through you. Your body, without a stomach, is all these. It kind of just sucks all these fluids in, and then spits it out. A lot of people get this dumping syndrome when they eat sugars, sometimes dairy. I've heard people when they drink water, just plain water, they can't do water. Knock on wood, I had the sugar dumping syndrome for the first maybe 2 weeks. And now, I'm again 7-8 months post-op. I can eat whatever I want. It's just volume. So going back to the right out of surgery, volume is the big thing. A quarter cup of food is about all you can kind of, at least when I say you, at this point, I think we know that I'm talking about myself more in general. But you will start off eating a lot less volume, and it makes retaining weight really difficult. So my doctor, I hated the feeding tube, and he's like, you're going to have to use that feeding tube or you're going to lose another 10 to 15% body weight. At this point, post-surgery, I was about 172. So he's telling me I'm going to get down to about 145. I vowed that I was not going to use the feeding tube. I hated the feeding tube. I hated how it smelled. I hated how it felt. I just hated it. So it was my goal to prove to him that the earliest possible time I could get this feeding tube out, and he told me it was 4 weeks. If everything went perfect, that was the quickest he could remove this feeding tube. I was getting it out at 4 weeks, and I was getting it out without ever using it. So needless to say, I was eating, as much high fat, drinking milk. I tried the protein drinks, the Ensures, the Kate Farms. I didn't like the taste of those. So I had to, look other ways. Luckily, for my 4-week post-op came in, and his first question was, how's the feeding tube going? I told him I haven't used it not once. He said, well, how much weight have you lost? I said, I've lost only 3 pounds. He said, get that tube out of him. So that was kind of, a milestone victory for me. I was pumped. I'd set a goal and I'd achieved it. Feeding tube went out, and then I was able to kind of start doing activity. So post surgery right off the bat, volume way less. And I was told from the beginning, he told me, he goes, I don't know if you're going to be able to eat a tomahawk ribeye in 6 months, a year, if ever. But 6 months to a year is going to be the first time that you're going to start getting any kind of normal eating routine down. For me, I pushed myself daily, and I got sick daily. But I wanted to eat more, and a lot of people I've read, they lose all sensation of hunger. They're not hungry ever again, and they're having to force themselves. I have been the opposite. I am hungry 24/7. So it is a constant struggle for me to stop eating at a point to where I know I'm not going to get sick. Early on, I was pushing that and pushing it and pushing it. And, when I should have been eating a quarter cup of something, I was eating 3/4 cup, a half a cup, whatever. And I would pay for it. It's the second kind of part of that dumping syndrome. It's called late stage. You have early stage and late stage. And it's about an hour after you eat, you start to feel really tired, really nauseous. You're throwing up this bile. You don't really throw up the food. It's just this bile, foamy, just nastiness. And I was okay, because in my mind, I'm telling my body, I'm in control, and I'm telling my body, this is what you're going to handle. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to get there. Just like lifting weights, you don't start off trying to bench press 500 pounds, but you got to increase the weight to get the results that you wanted. So for me, that was my idea. That was my goal, is like, hey, I'm going to increase this volume to really what I can withstand. And for me, it was getting sick 5-6 times a day. And because of that, I don't know if this is scientifically proven or whatever, but I feel that my progress was exponentially quicker than what I've read and what I've found online. So for me, probably 2 months into it, I was eating decently. I was maintaining my weight. I had to go through 5 more rounds of chemo post-op. If anyone's been through chemo, it's tough. It puts a toll on your body. You're nauseous a lot. So, maintaining weight during that time was hard. And then I went into immunotherapy. I'd gotten up to about 180 pounds, went through immunotherapy, ended up having a reaction to immunotherapy, getting diagnosed with Graves' disease. My thyroid went through the roof. I'd be laying down and my resting heart rate was 120. I would take a shower, it'd be 150. So I lost all of that progress just because my body was like I was running a marathon 24/7. I couldn't feed it enough to even maintain weight. Luckily, after a couple of weeks of getting medications right, that was under control. And since then, that's probably been maybe a month ago. I ran through one of my prescriptions, so maybe a month and a half ago. Um, I'm now up to about 183, 184. I'm in the gym 3 to 4 times a week. I'm mountain biking or road biking 50 plus miles a week. I'm racing jet skis. I'm getting into BMX. I'm no longer doing motocross just for the fear of having a wreck, and I am still kind of tight from the small intestine up. So I've given up motocross, even though it's been a love since I've been 7 years old. In favor of just working on my body, working on, when I say my body, I'm never trying to be a swimsuit model or anything like that, but just if anyone knows this type of cancer, the chances of it coming back are fairly high. And so I want to be in the absolute best shape of my life so that God forbid it does come back, I can sit there and I can fight it again. And in a previous video, I'd mentioned, lucky, and I use that like that. Lucky, I was diagnosed at a younger age to where I was still somewhat fit and I was able to battle this. It was a victory. As of right now, I am cancer free. They call it NED, no evidence of disease. They removed, like mentioned, my esophagus, my stomach, 12 lymph nodes, 7 of which had cancer present. That's me knocking on this wood desk. It had not spread to somewhere else. And then my Great Dane heard me knocking, so he's going to come over and probably say hi in a second. But you have to find your normal. You have to find what works for you. If something doesn't work right now, especially on the type of food, the amount of food, all of that, if it makes you sick right now, it might not in a day, a week, a month. So try it. Try it later. Give it some time, go back. I thankfully can eat really whatever I want as long as I do it in moderation. Tomorrow being Thanksgiving. Last year at Thanksgiving, I wasn't able to really eat because I couldn't swallow anything. So this year I can eat, but I have to be weary of the amount I eat. It's kind of weird because it's easier for me to know my limits based on calories versus based on volume. And I say that because a bag of popcorn, and I get it's like this, and once it's all chewed up, it's like this, but I can eat an entire bag of popcorn and be fine. And that's 200 calories. But I could eat a Snickers, and then mind you, a Snickers has high sugar content and all that, but it's 250 calories, and that can sometimes make me sick. Or I can eat an egg and cheese sandwich, an English muffin, some Canadian bacon, cheese, egg, and that's about 380 calories, and I'm fine. I've eaten multiple slices of pizza, and it's fine. Bread, I have to kind of watch because as it goes in there and it swells up. And for me, and I've read this and a lot of other times, and people will tell you this, one of the great things is getting used to not drinking while you're eating or 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after, because you'll eat bread or carbs and then you'll drink and you'll swell up and it expands. And what's been good for 100 times, now you drink something, you're like, man, why am I getting sick? Why am I getting this dumping syndrome? And it's because of that swelling. Again, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. It's just kind of, what I've read. I'm actually the type of person where I haven't read much. When I was diagnosed, I didn't want to know anything. my daughter went through cancer, and I did all the research and all of that at that point. Um, and when I was going through it, I didn't want to know anything. I put it in the doctor's hands. I put it in God's hands. I put it in my wife's hands. She did the research. She bore that burden. She bared that burden. I don't know how to say it. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That burden was on her shoulders. She's a saint of a woman. She's a badass of a woman, just because she was the mama bear with my daughter when she was going through that. And then when I was diagnosed, she had to put on that hat again. Not only that hat, the business, she ran the business for the past year. She took care of the house for the past year. Support structure when you're going through something like this is crucial. And if you're out there and you don't have that support structure, I will be that support structure. Reach out to me if you need someone to talk to ask questions to. I will be there for you, because it is amazing. Luckily for me, we own AOT Racing, and I had tens of thousands of people that would rally around me. Probably not that many. We have that many riders, but not that many people were truly rallying around me. But it felt like that. It felt like millions that were there giving support, sending me cards and a jersey for my buddy Ledger, and when he had gotten in a bad wreck and broke his arm. And just those small things are huge. So if you're watching this for a family member, for a friend that's fighting, reach out to them. It doesn't have to be daily, minutely, once a week, as often as you can. But I assure you, it's never too much. I don't care what they say. If they're like, yo, you're kind of bugging me, man, like, give me some space. Okay, maybe give them a little space, but don't. Let them know you're thinking of them. Let them know, just a text, thinking of you. How are you doing? Anything like that means the world. That positivity is what's gotten me through it. I've had the dark days. You're going to have dark days. That's one thing I can almost guarantee. I would almost put my life on that. You're going to have one day where you're just like, fuck this. This sucks. I don't know how much fight's left in me, but I promise it gets better. At some point it might get worse, but it gets better. And it feels so good. I'll wake up now and I have a routine, and I'll kind of show that routine through some of these videos. But finding that routine, to me, has made the world of difference. And I've only really started to find this routine within this last month. For a year, I sat around on a couch and I did nothing. And I never really felt sorry for myself, but I could have done better. And, hindsight being 2020, there's things I would have done different. I would have been more active. I would have tried to walk more. There's a lot I would have done better. But that being said, I feel like I did a lot to improve my situation the best that, maybe not the best if I'm saying I can do better, but I did a lot to improve my situation. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud to say that I beat cancer. And when I say I mean my wife, my daughter, my son, my doctors, the AOT Army, who were there for me, pushing me along, pulling me along, doing whatever they could, to keep me motivated and keep me going. So if you're in this fight, you're not alone. I don't care if you think you don't have any family, any friends. I'm there beside you. I'll do whatever I can. I'm really not going to be there beside you. It's kind of weird. But I'll be the best that I can for you if you need that type of person. I'm here. I'm the Stomachless dude. There's a lot of us out there, a lot of us stomachless people. And I'm guessing I just kind of have found out through a group that I'm in that the seahorse is kind of our spirit animal. And I've had a seahorse tattooed on me for quite some time. So it's kind of ironic, kind of a little strange. I don't know. I think I relate better with like a raccoon or something than a seahorse, but we both don't have stomachs. So that's something we have in common. So thank y'all so much. If you're watching this, I'm going to try to do some more videos that are kind of along this line, more informative. And I'm going to do a lot of videos of just where I think I put, fun, food, and fuckery, just what you can do without a stomach, really anything except for eat a shit ton of food. So peace out, guys. Love y'all. Everyone who's followed this journey, thank you. If you're new to this journey, thank you. Learn, live, love. I think that's maybe a book or something, but probably stole that. I'm going to get sued now. Peace, guys.